So welcome. Uh, Today I'm going to just really briefly talk about who I am and what we do. And then I'm just going to open up for your questions. Anything relating to service dogs or service dog training is fine. And then we'll talk about how to get started with training and provide some more resources. Here's just a fun little video of two of our trainers, each training a service dog. Neither of these dogs knew each other or were friends or anything. This is part of a training session they did on ignoring other dogs in public. Hi, Laura. Welcome. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. That's really exciting about your puppy. I hope training is going well so far. Okay. Whoopsie. Um, So generally, I just ask folks to keep your mic muted unless you're asking a question, just so there's a good audio quality for everybody else and for the recording. If it's comfortable for you, it's nice for me if people have their cameras on, so I don't feel like I'm talking into the void, but it's definitely not required. And Lori always kindly leaves her camera on so I can see that there's another human there that I'm talking to. Usually it's fine to either type your questions in the chat or to unmute and ask them out loud, whichever you prefer usually works fine. We are using the um, um, the closed captions, and if you're relying on that and there's something that doesn't make sense, we will try to catch it and type a correction in the chat. Although usually the feedback that we get from our clients who are deaf and hard of hearing is that the closed captioning is working really well. So almost any type of question is welcome. If you have a training question that's a sort of complex, how do I train this? This thing is happening with my dog. What should I do? I might give you my best guess, but we do very individualized training. We really try to tailor things to the specific dog and the specific human handler. And it's often not really possible to answer a complex training question in this type of situation where I don't know you and your dog. Typically, sometimes we have people show up like Margaret did today, who I do know you and your dog. But just to heads up on that. And then I'll provide some follow-up resources for further questions and support at the end. So where I'm coming from is that I started this journey when I was severely disabled myself for 18 years. During the course of that time, I trained 3 service dogs for myself over 16 years at a time when almost nobody had even heard of owner training a service dog, let alone was doing it. I had to figure out a lot of things for myself. It was very difficult and confusing and lonely. When I recovered my health in 2013, since this was my passion in life, I decided to help other people train their own service dogs. I attended Karen Pryor Academy and earned my Karen Pryor Academy Certified Training Partner certification, graduating with distinction. And I also earned my certification from the Certification Council for Professional Dog Trainers, Knowledge Assessed. I've been helping people with disabilities to train their own service dogs professionally since 2014. Before that, I worked in the disability field for several years, disability information referral and advocacy. So sort of everything in my life brings me to this work. We have 2 other trainers who work with us. Alex Weiss is also a certified professional dog trainer, knowledge assessed, and also is an owner trainer. They trained their first service dog, Hitch, that white pit bull in the lower left. He had to be career changed for behavior issues, and they have now trained their second service dog, Clippy, a Portuguese water dog. Alex has been a professional trainer since 2015, and our newest trainer has been with us for 2 years, Ela McCullough. Um, Started out as a guide dog puppy raiser for many years, and has been a professional trainer since 2024. Went through my mentorship program for service dog trainers, and now runs our board and train program. So if you send your dog to us for board and train, Eli would be the one to train. I just have to warn you guys, I'm recovering from a voice related issue, so I might need to stop periodically and just like take a breath and reset my voice. Okay, it's not usually this gravelly. All right. We help people with disabilities and their families to train their own service dog, either a psychiatric service dog or a physical disability. We can help you find the right dog to train, which I'm very passionate about. Or if you already have the dog you want to train, we're happy to help you train that dog. We have online group classes, which is our DISC program, which I'll tell you more about later. We also offer private lessons online and on site if you're in Massachusetts or in driving distance. And then we have a board and train program as well. We also sometimes do some related training. So if anybody here is a professional trainer, I do consult on service dog training for pro trainers or working with disabled clients. And we also do some therapy dog training or training for emotional support animals or pets for people with disabilities where the disability is affecting their needs for training. We train for mobility service dogs, psychiatric service dogs, hearing dogs, and then a range of other disabilities. For example, guiding for somebody who has a brain injury or sensory processing issues, or etc. We train with almost every type of disability. So if you have a question, please either go ahead and type it in the chat, or if you want to unmute, that's also fine. We'll just do one question at a time, and I'm happy to answer whatever is up for you. And I'm going to stop the share right now. Actually, while folks are typing questions, I'm going to just address a topic that Margaret brought up when she introduced herself, which is she has trained a service dog named Otis. She did some of that training with us. And Otis is now 6, and she was mentioning thinking about a successor. So it's a great idea to start thinking and planning about a successor before you need one. There's a lot of different variables in what works for people, but I usually recommend, if it works for you in your household and where you live, to try to acquire your successor dog while your current service dog is still working. So the reason for that is that it takes a lot of pressure off of the training process. If you already have a dog who's helping you with the things that you need help with, it gives you more time and mental and physical bandwidth to train your new dog, especially if you're going to raise a puppy. Just the puppy raising process itself takes a long time and can be a lot, can be exhausting. So that can be really helpful because then you're not feeling so rushed to get this new dog trained. Another benefit is that dogs definitely do learn from each other. And if you have a stable, friendly, well-trained adult model for your new dog or puppy to model on, it's incredibly helpful. There have actually been studies that show that in the guide dog schools that place puppies in puppy raising homes, that the puppies that are placed in homes that already have a dog are more likely to graduate. So if you have a dog who's a really good role model, that's also the extra benefit is that they can learn a lot of skills and tasks from each other. Now, some trainers debate this, but I experienced it firsthand where my second service dog, Gadget, saw my first service dog, Jersey, do things like carry the grocery bag from the car to the house. And I would just have him sit and watch while she did it. And then the process of training him to do it was super fast because he was like, I want to do it too. Um, so I can't guarantee that that will happen, but it can happen. And I think that that can be very valuable. Um, of course, then you're also dealing with, it's not uncomplicated, you're also dealing with some competition sometimes between the dogs. You have twice the costs. You have twice the, you have more energy you need to spend on taking care of everybody. But usually your older dog takes a lot less work at this stage and is helping you more. Okay. And Margaret has more on this topic. I'm thinking about how to locate Otis's successor. I would prefer to get a dog who's been raised and selected as a service dog candidate from puppyhood. Since I adopted Otis when he was already one and untrained, I'm really unfamiliar with how to locate a reputable school breeder or both. Yeah, finding the right dog is in some ways the hardest part of the process, and it's really essential. If you don't have the right dog, it's not going to work out. We have a webinar. It's a two-part webinar, so each is an hour and a half, um, so 3 hours total, and also has materials, support materials. And that's where I would start is watching the webinar. Um, Lori just put it in the chat. Thank you, Lori. So it goes over, should I get an adult or a puppy? Like, what are the pros and cons of each? And what are the specifics for your age and family composition and lifestyle and disability and where you live and things like that? Should I get a dog from a breeder or from a rescue? If I'm going to get a dog from a program, what are the pros and cons of that? So it really sort of helps you, and there's quizzes for you to sort of think about what's the right thing for me and what is my interest and what is my abilities and what am I concerned about. And you go through all of that, and then by the end of that, you should have a pretty clear idea of what seems to be the best process for you. And then if you want to move forward with actually finding the right dog at that point, or finding the right program or breeder or whatnot, there are a lot of tips in the webinar on that. But I do also provide dog search support where I help you to find the right breeder or program or dog or whatever based on your situation. And I'm really passionate about this because when I started this work about 12 years ago, most of the dogs that people were contacting me about had already bitten somebody. So the rate of dogs not working out as service dogs for folks who find their own service dog is really, really high. And when I work with somebody to help them find the right dog, the success rate is much higher. It's not to say that you can't find the right dog, 'cause people do, and you can get lucky, but it increases your chances. So that would be what I would recommend. Um, So if you have further questions, you can post them in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to some other questions. Susie asks, I'm interested in resources for how to train mobility tasks safely for the dog. I have a Great Pyrenees mix, 100 pounds. Okay, that's a great question. I love that you're asking that. One of the most important things, and you might already be doing some of these things, but I'll just go over everything, is to make sure that your dog is fully mature physically, and mentally also usually is good. And to then have your dog assessed by first your regular vet, primary vet, and then I also, when I was training mobility tasks with my dogs, would then take my dog to an orthopedic vet. to get them assessed by an orthopedic vet. Because if you're doing anything that involves any type of weight bearing, you really want to make sure that the growth plates are closed and that they're not seeing anything on x-rays, and their gait looks good. Um, and then another thing that I recommend is actually to work with your OT or PT to make sure that ergonomically you're doing it in a way that's safe for you as well. If you start working with your dog, you might want to then contact your OT or PT and set up an appointment with them where they can see how you're working with your dog and making sure that it's ergonomically safe for you. And I know you didn't ask about if it's safe for you, but if we're doing things that are, when we're working with our dog in that way, there's a sort of a give and take between the dog body and neurology and our body and neurology, and there's a feedback loop. And I believe that if it's not healthy and safe for you, it's probably also going to be not healthy and safe for your dog. Um, and then in terms of specific recommendations, it would sort of depend on what you're training. I don't know if you want to unmute or type in the chat and tell me like what some of the tasks are that you want to train.
Sorry, my husband was making noise.
No problem.
I have balance issues from scoliosis, so that and momentum are the things that I'm looking at long term. I'm
Okay.
okay at the moment, but it worsens, so thinking ahead.
Okay. Gotcha. And how old is your dog right now?
Well, this dog is kind of an interesting backstory. We think he's somewhere between 2 and 3. I know this is going to sound nuts. We adopted him from a shelter. He was only 43 pounds at the time. He's now healthy, and 100 pounds. And the weird thing about him is over time, we think he was in training as a service dog and ended up somehow as a stray. We don't know what his backstory is. He was picked up on the streets in our county.
Okay.
And basically, it was total coincidence that we adopted this dog.
Yeah.
Um, and we've had a groomer recognize him as a dog she groomed in a different location who was what she remembers him as being a service dog for an older person.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
he
That's
already
bizarre.
knows I have some cardiac issues and he has spontaneously just started doing deep pressure therapy. I didn't even know what that was
Yeah.
until I did some research on it. And
Yeah.
he already knows all the commands I can come up. I've been trying to think of new things to teach him, and every time I do, he already knows it.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, frankly.
Yeah. He sounds great.
He
Some
does.
dogs just kind of have this sort of inborn, intuition or, interest or ability. So it sounds like he might be one of those dogs. You got really lucky,
Yeah, it's
which is
total kismet.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so in terms of forward momentum, uh, the way I usually train that, and you can start this training without doing any, weight bearing or anything on him to get started, is I train that with a platform where I train the dog to stand on a platform, so that they're really, really excited to get on that platform. And we just do a lot of that over and over and training the dog to be in the proper position in relation to the handler. Um, and so the platform is teaching them to be in alignment, which is safer for you and for him ergonomically. And also just building this drive to move to a spot, a specific spot. It's a type of station training. And then I will add a second platform and then teach the dog like reward, reward, reward for getting on platform A. And then like, oh, look, there's platform B. And let's go to that one and then drive to the second platform and reward for that. Um, so that's one of the foundations. And you can do all of that off leash to get started. And then when your orthopedic vet and your OT are like, you're good to go, and you've got appropriate equipment that's safe for you and your dog, which is another whole component of making it safe for everybody, then then you can add that and you can start to add some pull to it. I also want to add that I recommend that you get some loose leash walking training done so that your dog is like 60 to 70% loose leash walking trained, and then start this training. You don't want to wait until he's completely loose leash walking trained because then it makes it much harder to train him to pull because you've already like overridden that impulse so extensively.
Yeah.
Um,
He likes to walk in front of me normally, even with a
yeah,
loose leash. He likes to
yeah,
walk slightly in front on the
yeah.
left.
Okay, that's great. And then, yeah, it sounds great. And then once you've got those components, before you start really working on the pull, you're also going to just make sure that you are, if you're using the platforms, one of the benefits of that is that it's also automatically training the dog to stop, which is really important too. So you don't want to just teach a pull without having the stop. So that's one of the reasons I really love using platforms for this. For balance work, um, I usually recommend using balance work, support work, if the issue is something like proprioception of you don't really know where your body is in space and you just kind of need a touchstone and you're just using the dog to provide you that proprioceptive information. I
Yes.
have really moved away from anything that puts any sort of downward pressure or even side to side pressure on the dog. Even though it sounds like your dog is really big, it's still, they're not a horse. They weren't really, their bodies aren't really equipped for that. And it can really cause health issues over time. So that's an important thing too. Like if somebody, the human handler, has balance issues that are causing falls, I usually recommend working with an OT who specializes in rehabilitation medicine or a physiatrist or something like that to get proper assistive technology. Um, and then add the dog into the assistive technology because if you're having falls, you could fall on your dog. Like it's just dangerous. So it depends a lot on what the balance issue is and what the disability is and things like that. Um, and I hope that's helpful. Yeah, I love working on that stuff because that was a lot of stuff that I was dealing with way back when as well. So I have personal experience with it as well. Um, and that's the kind of thing that I usually train in private lessons because it's kind of specific. We do include platform training in Silver Disc, which is our level 3 course. Um, but we don't introduce the forward momentum pull, but we train the stand stay, which you need for that, and the platform foundation training in that course. I also would strongly recommend not teaching this dog an auto sit, a default sit. That will really be counterproductive with the tasks that you want. If his default is to just sit every time you come to a stop or things like that. So really train an auto stand. And that's what we cover also in level 2 in our bronze class is, getting started with an auto stand. Um, okay. I'm just looking to see if there are other questions in the chat. I don't see any other questions. Does anyone have a question that hasn't been asked yet, either in the chat or you can ask in the chat or you can unmute yourself?
I do have another question actually. And that's see how to phrase this. The thing I think, well, yeah, he has an auto stand. He knows stop. He knows it's like I said, it's almost creepy. I am having him evaluated by a local trainer who specializes in service dogs. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. Um, and but one of my questions is how you convey the now it's time to work versus the now it's okay to just be a dog and sniff everything you want to sniff. situation? How do you do that?
Yeah. Um, so we do cover that as well in Pearl and sort of the training process for that. But generally speaking, that one of the easiest ways to do it is with the equipment. So that when the working gear is on, you have one set of expectations, and when the working gear is off, you have a different set. And we also want to really mindfully use our release cues. So we usually have a release cue that means you can do whatever you want now. And then sometimes for specific tasks, we have a release cue, meaning you can stop doing this now. For example, if your dog is doing some type of alert task or behavior interruption or something, and that situation, that medical situation or psychiatric situation is still ongoing, you don't want the dog to be like, I'm going to keep doing this, right? Or in our deep pressure class, like one of the cues that we teach is off. Because a lot of dogs are like, I love lying on you. I'm just going to keep doing this. And then you, as a handler, are like, okay, that's enough. And the dog's like, no, I'm good. So, so that might be something else that you would want to include as well as a release cue, but also making it really clear to the dog when the equipment is on. We're doing a lot of long downstays, a lot of settles, a lot of working walk, or etc. And then the gear comes off, and like, oh, now we're going to play ball, or we're going to cuddle on the couch, or whatever. So they start to get the idea of that. Yeah, great question. Any other questions? Um, okay, Margaret says she has another question, but also wants to hold space for Laura. I think Laura at the beginning said she's here to learn and listen because she's got a new puppy. So, um, Moose, that's a cute name. Um,
Yeah, thank you so much. This is Laura. Yeah, I'm just, we've been planning for this for a while. It's all kind of happening. And so, I'm just trying to listen and learn. And, we have a trainer that specializes in service dogs that we're working with next week. Our breeder is just amazing. So we really feel like, you know, we're doing all the things we should. It feels good.
awesome.
Our puppy is so sweet. He's just a doll. We're kind of obsessed.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I'm just interested in just kind of learning all the things because I've read some things, but I feel like
yeah,
I'm more at the stage of I don't know what I don't know yet.
yeah. Yes, that's very wise. Yeah, and there's a lot out there too, and not all of it is necessarily equivalent in terms of the quality or accuracy of the information. So I think, being open-minded and listening critically is a great idea. Um, all right. So Margaret, why don't you ask your other question then? Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, this is Margaret. I can vocalize this one. I also want to mention that when my partner and Otis and I were looking for like reliable training that we could get to physically, like we live in Ohio and the classes at Your Service were such a godsend, but we also, sometimes I needed to be around someone who would be like, I can see everything you're doing in 3 dimensions. It was so incredibly helpful to be able to come back and ask Sharon or Alex like my really hyper specific questions. Well, I'm getting kind of by the book information from this trainer or this, it just echoing what Sharon just said about there's such a variety of information out there, and some of it is reliable, and some of it made me kind of go, "Oh, that doesn't sound right." And so Sharon and Alex really kind of became a touchstone, like almost never telling me, here's exactly what to do, but basically saying, here are the factors you're balancing. So my question is, I actually have acquired some new diagnoses since Otis and I started working together. And one is a traumatic brain injury. I also just got new hearing aids, which are very exciting. I can hear so much more clearly than
Yay.
I used to. Uh, say
I
again.
said, yay. Sorry.
I know,
I was
yeah,
just
it's so
celebrating.
exciting.
Yeah.
Uh, my audiologist was like, I love that you're immediately happy about these. Yeah. Um, so the introductory PowerPoint that you showed mentioned guiding for traumatic brain injuries. Can you say a little bit more about what that might involve? I'm fully clueless.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the thing, as I'm sure you know, about traumatic brain injuries is they can affect you in like any way. So, I've worked with a number of people with traumatic brain injuries, and their needs are all different. I mean, and that's true of all disabilities. Like, all disabilities are a little bit different in the person who's experiencing them, but I think it's especially true in a brain injury. So, you can have a brain injury that affects your hearing, or affects your vision, or affects your balance. In most cases, brain injury seems to affect sensory processing and memory, and often emotional regulation. But you know, there's so much variability. But I worked with a client, a senior who had had a brain injury many years earlier, and it affected her visual perceptual ability. So she was sighted, but she often just didn't notice there was a curb, or she didn't notice there was a stair or whatever. So I trained her dog basically as a guide dog, um, because even though most of the time she would see those obstacles, there might be a time where she just didn't perceive them. So that's an example. Uh, I've worked with a few people with brain injuries, and I would say maybe like a third or a half of them had some of those sensory perception issues where doing something that involves some forward type of guide work was helpful. But it's going to completely depend on how your brain injury affects you. Um, so I hope that answers that question.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm lucky that the things that Otis was initially trained to do, which were mostly for panic attacks and general uh navigation, also are very helpful with the things it turns out are attributable to my TBI.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that
but
makes sense.
I am anticipating some slightly different needs a couple years down the line.
Right. That's one of the great things about training your own service dog and becoming a really skilled trainer in the process of training is that then if your condition changes, you can train new skills for your dog on your own, which is can be so beneficial. Um, I did want to just come back to something that Margaret said earlier about team training, since everybody's talked about working with a local trainer. So what we usually recommend is working with a local trainer if possible. You want to, especially if you're raising a puppy, we really recommend doing a rewards based puppy kindergarten or day training program, just to have a credentialed, all rewards based trainer who can have eyes on your puppy in novel situations around strangers, around other dogs, around sounds, and you know, things like that, to make sure that your puppy is not showing any signs of fear or stress, and that you know how to help your puppy get comfortable with novelty, because that's just critically important. Um, and that's one of the most useful things to do in person with somebody. And then if you're working with a local trainer that you really click with and things are going well, that can be fantastic. And we do a lot of team training where we have clients from all over the country, and sometimes we will speak with that client's trainer, or the client will come to us, like Margaret said, and say, they're saying to do this and you're saying to do that, and which one should we do? And a lot of the time we'll say either one is fine. You can do whichever one you like, and just, you know, just let me know which one you're doing, and that's fine. But sometimes we'll say, for example, like the auto stand I mentioned earlier with Susie, it sounds like her dog already has that. Most trainers will train a dog to do an auto sit. And once that's trained, you can't really make a default behavior not in a dog's vocabulary anymore. So that's just something that most trainers who don't have a lot of experience with um, training a mobility service dog, or even maybe sometimes any service dogs, are going to know about. So we usually recommend doing like puppy kindergarten or basic manners or something with a local trainer, and then at the same time or sequentially doing our Pearl Disc class. That's our level 1 class online for all the reasons that Margaret mentioned, because we cover things that just aren't really covered in typical classes or lessons um, with a local trainer. And because it is online, we can cover a lot of things that you just can't cover in a sort of real world situation, because you can focus and concentrate and your dog can focus and concentrate. And then we also, have a curriculum. So because of like what Laura said, which is a really real thing, is that you don't know what you don't know. And so that's a way to make sure that all the bases are being covered early in the training process, before you later realize, oh, shoot, I wish I had done this sooner. So if there's no other questions, I'm going to just go back to our slides. I'm going to briefly go over some of those resources.
I
Susie might have
posted,
another question.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, great.
Yeah, I did have one
Okay.
other question, if that's okay.
Yeah, hold on one second, Susie. I'm just going to read this question from Laura and then I'll come back to you.
Mhm.
Thanks for sharing the recommendations for puppies. We're doing a 7-week puppy kindergarten currently. Okay, great. Day program. Excellent. Okay, that all sounds really good. Great. Okay, sorry, Susie, go ahead.
No worries, thanks. So my dog Zorro is a Great Pyrenees, according to Embark, is a Great Pyrenees Maremma Anatolian mix. So he is all livestock guardian. Do you find that you need different training methods for livestock guardian dogs? Think a bit differently than other breeds do, and so that is a factor for me. Do you feel like that's something? How do I take that into consideration?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's so funny because on paper, livestock guardian dogs should not work out as service dogs, because they're so independent. But I have worked with some great peer mixes that have been terrific. So it really varies a lot. And another common concern with livestock guardian dogs is if they're friendly and comfortable around strangers, if they're friendly and comfortable around other dogs and other animals, because so often they're not, because that's what they have been bred to do. But sometimes you get lucky, like it sounds like you have with Zora, which is another great name. And they're okay with all of that. So one thing that I would do is just to make sure to continually, until you're sure that Zorro has reached full social maturity. So until at least 3 years old, to continue to reinforce making it a fun, positive, happy, relaxed thing to be around strangers, to be in novel locations, to be around other dogs or other animals. Because what can happen sometimes with these giant breed dogs is that their maturation is slower, and then you think that they have finished social maturity, and then you get a surprise when they're like 18 months or 2 years. So to just keep reinforcing that it's very like safe and relaxing and happy to be in those situations, just in case some of that genetic hardwiring, shows itself. And then the other thing that's usually an issue with our livestock guardian dogs is that they are very independent thinkers. They might not enjoy a lot of repetition and drilling. They usually don't have a lot of, desire to sort of train for an hour, right? So I would make training sessions very short. Sometimes for a dog like that, I will do 3 reps per session, and make those, make the training very easy, make it very brief, and then give the dog time to sort of process it and then do another session. to do training on only a very small number of skills at a time. So, for example, in the morning, we're going to train on down. We're going to do 4 reps on down stay. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do another set of down stay. And then in the evening, we're going to do 4 reps of touch, and that's it. If you throw in a lot of like, we're going to do sit, and then we're going to do down, and then we're going to do touch, that can sort of fry them mentally a little bit faster. So making sessions really short, and really paying a lot of attention to the dog's body language, which we cover a ton in our Pearl class, because it makes you so much more skilled as a trainer and handler when you know these little things that your dog is telling you. And that way you can see, like, you've done 2 reps of down, and on the 3rd rep, your dog goes, and if you know, oh, that's my dog's sign that he is getting mentally tired, then you're not going to do that 4th rep where he's like, I refuse. He walks away. So getting really good at reading the dog body language and keeping the training very, very motivating, very brief. Um, Sometimes that also involves using whatever your dog finds the most rewarding thing, or making the conditions for the training really, really easy. Like a lot of livestock guardian dogs do not enjoy warmth, right? They like the cold, hard floor or whatever. So make sure that like you're doing your training at a time of day that's very comfortable. So it usually, these are all generalizations, and I don't know Zorro, so I don't know how he works, but usually you want to just keep things very limited, and make sure that it's going to go well. It's going to go a lot slower. You're not going to be able to get in as many reps. Training is going to take longer, but you're going to have a willing partner, and that's really important. Great, thanks for that question. All right, so I'll just go over what we offer. So as I mentioned, if you're looking for or you're considering getting a dog to train as a service dog, if you haven't already, watch the free informational video we have on our website. And then, as I mentioned, that the webinar, that is about finding the right dog. So it's a 2-part webinar. It's really about sort of making the right decisions for you and your household, and your disability, and it goes over all the variables and what might be most important for you. And then after that, to do an individual consultation and dog search support, where I actually help you, I say, these are the breeders I think you should try, or this is, you already know what to look for in a breeder to some degree because you watched the webinar, but then you'll contact a breeder and you'll say, well, she has this dog and she says this and this and that about him. And I say, okay, that sounds good. I'm concerned about this thing. Ask her these other things. Or I contact the breeder myself and say, I have this client who's looking for this, and these are our concerns. Or, you're looking for a program, you're looking for a partly trained dog. I do my best to advocate for you and to make the process easier and to have a more likely successful outcome. So that's the webinar that I just mentioned. If you already have the dog you want to train, our usual starting point, unless we've helped you find your dog, if we've helped you find your dog, we'll start doing private lessons with you as well. But in most cases, we recommend starting with our Dogs in Service certification program. This is a series of courses that's specifically for people who are training their own service dog. It's a levels program. We start with material that is appropriate for puppies or dogs that are new to training. And then we go through all the foundations that you need for public access and for tasks. There's a lot of individual coaching. Our level 1 class, Pearl, has a maximum of 4 dogs in it. The other class is usually maximum of 5, so you get a lot of one-on-one instruction, and everything is very tailored to your dog's needs and your needs. Pearl is a 10-week course that then has an assessment at the end. Each 10-week course has an assessment that you do before you move to the next step. It's appropriate for any age of dog, starting with 8 weeks. We really try to make things specific to real life scenarios so that you know how to use what you're learning in class in real life. One of the nice things about training with us is that it is a community. You're training with other service dog teams. You get to know sometimes the other teams in your classes because they are so small. If you're on Facebook, you can be in our private Facebook group and share videos and pictures of your dogs. You can ask questions. It's a very supportive community. And you also get lifelong access to all of our materials, which is a lot. So we have over 100 training tip sheets. We have new videos that we're creating all the time. In the classes, you get homework sheets to do the homework from the class, but you also get a video recording of every class that you can download, or any online lesson that you do, so you can watch them again and again. Our upcoming Pearl Disc classes are here on the screen. The next one, we have one spot left for our working team, which is July 21st at 5 o'clock Eastern or 2 o'clock Pacific time. We also do offer an auditing option where you can take the course for a discount. And that just means you get all of the homework and you can watch the course and everything, but you can't get individual coaching and ask questions. But for the working teams, the rate is $425 for the 10 weeks, including the assessment. And then we have these other, when that one fills, we have these other ones starting in August and September. The feedback that we get over and over again from people about this class is that they thought that it would mostly just be a review and that they wouldn't learn very much, but they learned so much more than they were expecting. And we've heard that from people who already have fully trained working service dogs, professional trainers. We really try to provide something that's fills in a lot of the gaps that are missing in in-person classes. We also have a deep pressure therapy course. This is also an online course. There are some prerequisites for this one. So we usually recommend taking Pearl first because that covers these prerequisites. But if your dog already has the prereqs, you can start with DPT. So this teaches a functional duration deep pressure therapy task in one position. So your dog lying on your chest or on your lap or your legs. And we also teach a chin rest on your hand or other body part, kisses on your hand or cheek or wherever you want it, an off cue, like I mentioned earlier, and how to start symptom cued behavior. And all of those are optional. Like if you don't want your dog to learn kisses, then you don't have to train that. And that's $325 for that 7-week course and all of the homework and recordings. And then the other class that we have coming up, this is because we added this about a year and a half ago, I think, because we just were finding that a lot of the more advanced teams, when we were doing their assessments, were uncomfortable with being handled by strangers. It's just something that I've noticed more and more in recent years in service dogs and training. So we started offering this stressless harness and groom. It's a cooperative care course, also 7 weeks online, taught live. All of our classes are taught live, where you train an opt-in behavior. It's a stationing behavior. So your dog can do this behavior to indicate like, hey, I'm okay, I'm good now, go ahead and put the harness on, or I'm good, go ahead and clean my ears. So it allows them to opt in for whatever handling you're doing. It makes the dog comfortable and more cooperative. We also have some additional cues in this class for letting your dog know you're starting something that they don't like and that then you're done with that thing. And again, that often makes them a lot more cooperative when you need to do something that you know isn't going to be pleasant, like you need to give your dog a shot. And we have a lot of nail trim behavior support pieces in the class as well. There's no prerequisites for this class. Anybody can take it, and it's $345 for 7 weeks. And then we also offer private training. So online we do most of our task training online because it just works really well to do that. But we also can do some in person. We can do online training for things that you might not, are too specific to cover in class. So usually task training, like for example, forward momentum pull or balance work or retrieves or things like that. Or any sort of advanced public access issue that you're going through, we can also cover in privates. And in our board and train, that might be puppy raising, socialization, if it's hard for you to get out and socialize your dog in certain environments. A lot of like basic manners, good manners around the house. And then we can also cover more advanced skills that are more difficult to do yourself, like public access tasks or troubleshooting things that you've been trying to train and they're just not going well. This is a video of
I have both dogs in the
Eli.
video,
Oh, okay.
and we're going.
This is the beginning, I think, of the video that I showed earlier. This is how Eli started Bodhi before Alex added Clippy. So this was the foundation of bringing in a second dog in a public access situation. And it's a really long video. I don't know why. I think I must have put in the wrong video here. So it's too long to show you guys. Let's see. I don't think anyone here is a professional trainer, but I do offer, like I said, consulting for pro trainers on service dog training. For example, if you're working with a local trainer, this happens sometimes, and they're not sure, or you're not sure if things are going the way that you want. I do also do tandem coaching where I meet with you and your trainer and your dog, and you and your trainer are in person and I'm online, and we troubleshoot together, just so your trainer can be providing you the best support that they can. We have a free ebook for pro trainers on getting puppies and basic manners started properly with future service dogs. And I also speak and present at conferences and workshops on service dog topics. If you haven't already watched the informational video on our homepage of our website, I strongly recommend that. It's a lot of basic information on what's involved with training your own service dog. We have a blog that has relatively frequent posts of useful information. We have a pretty active Facebook and YouTube where we post articles and videos and things like that. So that's all free information. And our newsletter is really quite good. I think Lori does our newsletter. She does a wonderful job. It only comes out 5 times a year, so you do not get inundated with information. And that is another nice free resource that we offer. And that is it. So thank you so much for your attention and your really good questions. I really enjoyed hearing what everybody's doing with your dogs. And thank you so much for coming today. And happy training.